"You're a disappointment," Dad shouted after slapping me at the party. "I sold their mansion. Now they're begging me back with no home left." The crystal champagne flutes froze mid-toast. The music seemed to stop. 50 pairs of eyes locked onto my face as my father's handprint burned into my cheek, the sound of the slap still echoing through the mansion. "Ungrateful bitch," he hissed through $30,000 veneers. My crime? Refusing to hand over the keys to my $450,000 condo, the one I'd bought through 3 jobs and countless 80-hour weeks, because my golden child brother Jake needed it more for his growing family. I'm Skylar Blackwood, and that public slap at my brother's birthday party was the moment I finally accepted what I'd suspected for 32 years. I had never actually been a daughter to these people. I was an ATM to withdraw from, a scapegoat to blame, a chess piece to be sacrificed for their golden son. Nobody moved to help me. Nobody spoke in my defense. My mother stared into her champagne, pretending nothing had happened, while relatives averted their eyes, complicit in their silence. What I did next shocked everyone, especially my parents. When I discovered their 30-year secret hidden in plain sight, I didn't just walk away. I orchestrated a revenge so perfect, so legally bulletproof, that it stripped them of everything they valued while exposing the family lie they'd built their entire reputation around. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 3 warning signs of toxic family favoritism I wish I'd recognized decades earlier, and exactly how I transformed from forgotten daughter to the woman who built a 7-figure business from the ashes of betrayal, the woman who now helps thousands of other forgotten children reclaim their power. My earliest memory isn't a birthday party or family vacation. It's pressing my face against the cold heating vent at 4 years old, listening to my family laugh during game night downstairs, a night I wasn't allowed to join because it's past your bedtime, Skylar. It was 7:30 p.m. Jake was allowed to stay up until 10. By 16, the pattern was unmistakable. Jake's birthday brought a brand new red Mustang with custom rims, unveiled in our circular driveway with a professional photographer capturing his reaction for the Christmas card. 3 months later, on my 16th birthday, a used bike with a flat tire and my father's 2-hour lecture about building character through earning things yourself. I fixed that tire alone in our 3-car garage while hearing Jake's Mustang roar down the driveway for his weekend trip to Malibu with friends. Christmas mornings in our Connecticut colonial became my annual lesson in family hierarchy. Jake's side of the 12-foot Douglas fir overflowed with Abercrombie bags, the latest PlayStation, and envelopes containing spring break trips to Cancun. My meager pile contained sensible socks, SAT prep books, and household items deceptively wrapped to momentarily look like actual gifts. "You're more practical than Jake," my mother would justify with a tight smile, pearl necklace gleaming against her cashmere sweater. "We're respecting your Cherokee heritage of valuing simplicity." The casual way they weaponized my culture only when it saved them money wasn't lost on me, even at 12. My grandmother, a full-blooded Cherokee woman with eyes that missed nothing, secretly nurtured my spirit when my parents weren't watching. "Little sparrow," she'd whisper during our stolen moments in her garden. "Our people value community because it's genuine, not because we don't deserve beautiful things." She slipped me small treasures between their neglect, a handcrafted dream catcher, stories of powerful female ancestors, wisdom about resilience that would eventually save my life. When she passed away on my 14th birthday, a date my parents consistently mixed up in subsequent years, I lost my only ally within our toxic family system. Our family photo albums tell the visual story without requiring a single word. Jake always centered in professional portraits, beaming between our parents with their hands proudly resting on his shoulders. Me? When I appeared at all, I was at the edge, often partially cropped out, my expression a mixture of confusion and hope, like I was still waiting for permission to fully exist in the frame. For my senior photos, My mother forgot to schedule my session until the yearbook deadline loomed, then complained about the emergency fee throughout the entire rushed shoot, making it impossible to smile naturally. Meanwhile, Jake's senior portraits had involved 3 outfit changes, 2 locations, and professional lighting that cost more than my entire prom. What took me years of therapy to articulate was how our family operated like a dysfunctional corporation with fixed roles nobody could escape. My father, Tom, served as the controlling CEO whose decisions were final. My mother, Linda, the enabling VP who maintained peace at any personal cost to me. Jake, the golden child heir apparent who could do no wrong. And me, the convenient explanation for any problem that threatened their perfect family narrative. The double standard reached absurd proportions academically. When Jake failed Algebra 1 3 consecutive years, my parents hired 200-per-hour tutors from Princeton, scheduled meetings with the principal about unreasonable expectations, and consoled him nightly with, "Some brains just aren't wired for math, honey." Meanwhile, I maintained a 4.0 GPA while working part-time at Starbucks, earned a full academic scholarship to Northwestern, and was met with, "Grades are inflated these days," and my father's devastating comment at Thanksgiving dinner, "We're having her transcript verified. Seems suspicious she'd do that well." Despite this relentless psychological warfare, I constructed my life brick by solitary brick. I worked 3 simultaneous jobs through college: waiting tables at a 24-hour diner from 5 a.m., staffing the campus library afternoons, and retail at Nordstrom on weekends. I graduated summa cum laude, slept on my friend Amber's couch for 6 months while launching my marketing agency from nothing but determination, and at 30, purchased my dream condo, $450,000 of industrial chic perfection with hardwood floors, exposed brick, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Chicago. Every penny earned without a dollar of parental support. When I invited them to my housewarming, a gesture of peace I now recognize as trauma bonding, my mother circled my home like a health inspector, running her finger along my new quartz countertop before examining it for dust. "It's just a phase," she sighed, her voice dripping with condescension. "You'll sell it when you finally meet someone and start a real family." My father didn't even attempt diplomacy. "Seems like a waste of money for just you? All these bedrooms for one person?" The painful context they never acknowledged. They had gifted Jake a $75,000 down payment for his Lincoln Park starter home, co-signed his failed craft brewery ventures twice, and secretly paid off his credit card debt after his Las Vegas bachelor party spiraled to $28,000 of charges I accidentally glimpsed on my mother's Amex statement. Jake's 35th birthday celebration became the catalyst that would forever shatter our family facade. My parents rented the entire Crystal Lake estate, a sprawling mansion with private shoreline access and a staff of 20. The celebration included a James Beard award-winning chef flown in from Manhattan, a 12-piece band that had once toured with Bruno Mars, crystal champagne flutes engraved with Jake's monogram, and a midnight fireworks display choreographed to his favorite Dave Matthews Band songs. The final price tag, $57,000 for a 3-day celebration of their perfect son. This single party cost more than they had spent on all 32 of my birthdays combined, with enough left over to buy a luxury car. I nearly didn't attend. The thought of witnessing another extravagant celebration of Jake's existence made acid rise in my throat, but my grandmother's voice echoed in my mind. "Family is sacred, Sparrow, even when it breaks your heart." So I selected my most elegant black dress, purchased with my first major client check, bought a Breitling watch that cost a month's mortgage as Jake's gift, and arrived precisely on time, acutely aware that my own birthday 3 weeks earlier had passed without so much as a text message. The lakeside mansion sparkled with crystal chandeliers reflecting off sterling silver decorations. Waitstaff in tuxedos circulated with Dom Perignon and lobster canapes I couldn't taste through the knot in my stomach. Every smile, Every embrace felt like scenes from a movie about a perfect family that excluded me by design. I positioned myself near an enormous arrangement of white orchids, nursing a single glass of champagne, trying to fulfill my obligation to appear while attracting minimal attention. "Oh my goodness, you're Jake's sister, right?" My second cousin's new wife approached, her eyes already scanning the room beyond me for more important people. "What was your name again? And what is it you do?" Her pronunciation carried the subtle inflection suggesting no answer could possibly compare to Jake's venture capital success. I was calculating my earliest escape route when my parents materialized beside me, wearing identical, tight-lipped expressions that triggered my internal warning system. "We need to speak with you," my father stated, his commanding voice dropping to a whisper. "Privately." My mother's eyes darted nervously around the room as they steered me toward a mahogany-paneled study off the main hall. The heavy door closed with an ominous thud. My father positioned himself between me and the exit, a power move I recognized from childhood confrontations. My mother perched on a leather chair, fingers compulsively adjusting her triple strand of Mikimoto pearls. The room smelled of expensive cigars and entitlement, the leather-bound books more decorative than read. "Jake and Sarah have wonderful news," my mother began with practiced enthusiasm. "They're expecting twins, a boy and a girl. They'll be here by Christmas." "That's nice," I responded carefully, my stomach already contracting with certainty that this conversation wasn't about celebrating future nieces or nephews. "They need a larger place immediately," my father stated bluntly. "Your condo is in the Westridge School District, best in the state. 3 bedrooms, perfect layout for a family. 15 minutes from our house so we can help with the babies." I waited for the request to help them find something similar. It didn't come. "We want you to sign your condo over to Jake and Sarah," my father continued, his tone suggesting this was perfectly reasonable. "They need to move in before the 3rd trimester. A startled laugh escaped me, the kind that emerges when reality becomes so absurd it breaks your grasp on appropriate responses. "You want me to give them my home, the one I worked 3 jobs to afford? The one neither of you contributed a single dollar toward?" My father's jawline hardened like concrete. "You're being selfish, Skylar. You're a single woman. You don't need 3 bedrooms and that prime location. Family comes first, and Jake has actual needs now." The phrase "actual needs" detonated in my consciousness. Actual needs? My voice rose despite decades of conditioning to remain small. So my need for housing isn't actual enough? My need for the home I earned isn't real to you? "That's not what your father meant," my mother interjected, playing her lifelong role as Jake's defender. "We just mean you've always been so independent, so resilient. Jake and Sarah are starting a family. They need our collective support. And I didn't deserve support?" 32 years of emotional neglect crystallized into this single question. Jake got a car at 16, full college tuition, a house down payment, business loans, credit card bailouts. What did I get? Nothing. I built everything I have while you treated me like an afterthought. My father's face transformed, the carefully maintained mask of patriarchal benevolence replaced by something ancient and ugly. "We have always given you everything you needed," he hissed, color rising from his collar. "This is how you repay us, with this disgusting ingratitude?" "You've never treated us equally," I stated, voice trembling but determined. "Not once in 32 years. I've accepted your conditional love, your favoritism, your dismissal of everything I achieve. But I will not give up my home for Jake, not this time." Something primal shifted in my father's expression. "Because you are not equal," he roared, spittle flying from his lips. "Jake continues our bloodline, our legacy, our name. You're just—" The blow came without warning, his open palm connecting with my cheek with such force that my head snapped sideways. The crack echoed through the study like a gunshot. For a suspended moment, time crystallized, the sting spreading across my face, the metallic taste of blood where my teeth had cut the inside of my cheek, the high-pitched ringing in my left ear. "A disappointment," he finished, voice dropping to a glacial whisper. I stood paralyzed, not from the physical pain, but from the public confirmation of what I'd always suspected. I had never truly been their daughter. Through the doorway, now open from the commotion, stood a semicircle of party guests. My Aunt Catherine's hand covered her mouth in shock. Cousins exchanged wide-eyed looks. Jake himself stood frozen, champagne flute half raised, expression caught between embarrassment and vindication. Not one person stepped forward. Not one voice rose in my defense. The collective silence was the final verdict on my position in this family. I touched my burning cheek once, meeting my father's gaze with a calm that seemed to unnerve him. I believe we're finished here, with all of it. I collected my purse with deliberate movements. No rushing, no sobbing breakdown. Just quiet dignity cultivated through decades of emotional survival. The crowd parted as I walked through them, head high despite the visible handprint blooming across my face. The percussive click of my heels against marble punctuated the stunned silence as I made my exit, each step carrying me toward a revelation that would change everything. My Audi became a sanctuary where the facade could finally crumble. Mascara-stained tears streamed down my face as I watched the party continue through the windshield, my humiliation merely a momentary disruption in their celebration. The laughter and clinking glasses continued as if nothing significant had occurred. Because to them, it hadn't. As my breathing steadied, a question crystallized that I'd been avoiding for decades. Why? What made me fundamentally unworthy in my parents' eyes? Was I genuinely such a flawed daughter? Or was there a missing piece that would finally make sense of 32 years of being treated as an unwelcome stranger in my own family? I needed answers beyond the family mythology I'd been force-fed. My Cherokee grandmother had persistently encouraged me to explore our true family history, something my parents vehemently discouraged. "Some things are better left buried," my mother would snap whenever I asked innocent questions about our genealogy. That resistance now seemed less like privacy and more like concealment. With trembling fingers, I scrolled to a contact I'd kept but rarely used, my mother's estranged sister, Aunt Willow. Their mysterious falling out had occurred when I was 12, resulting in her banishment from family gatherings. The official narrative labeled her emotionally unstable and claimed she fabricated malicious stories. With sudden clarity, I wondered if those stories were actually inconvenient truths. "Skylar?" Her voice registered genuine surprise when she answered. "Is everything all right, sweetheart?" The simple kindness in her tone broke something open inside me. "No," I confessed, perhaps the first completely honest answer I'd given anyone in years. "Nothing's all right. I need to understand our family, the actual truth, not the sanitized version." "Come to me," she replied without hesitation. "It's long past time you knew." Aunt Willow's modest cottage sat on 3 acres at the outskirts of town, deliberately distant from my parents' social circle. Native wildflowers created a riot of color along the stone pathway, and handmade dream catchers swayed gently from the porch ceiling. She met me at the door and immediately enfolded me in her arms, a genuinely nurturing embrace that made me realize how rarely I'd experienced physical affection without agenda. Her living room exuded warmth that had nothing to do with temperature, walls adorned with authentic Cherokee art, hand-woven blankets draped over well-loved furniture, and most startlingly, family photographs I had never seen before. Images of ancestors whose features eerily mirrored my own, ceremonial gatherings, and even baby pictures of me that had somehow never made it into our family albums. "Your parents aren't remotely who they've pretended to be," she stated, pulling a weathered cedar box from a cabinet inlaid with turquoise. Inside lay a carefully preserved collection of yellowed photographs, handwritten letters, legal documents, and newspaper clippings. "And neither are you, little sparrow." The truth unfolded before me like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. My father had conducted an affair with his college girlfriend early in their marriage. Around the same time, my mother discovered she couldn't have children, a source of profound shame in their country club circle. Jake was the biological son from my father's affair, born during their brief separation. They reconciled under the condition that my father would legitimize Jake through adoption to save their marriage and preserve appearances in their social circle. I was adopted too, but from my mother's side of the family, a distant cousin who couldn't care for me. The documents were all there: birth certificates, adoption papers, court records. 2 children, adopted under vastly different emotional circumstances. Jake was the child of your father's passion, Aunt Willow explained gently. The son he fought to keep in his life. You were the obligation, the compromise your mother insisted on to balance the scales. The daily reminder of her infertility and his infidelity. I sat in stunned silence, 32 years of treatment suddenly making horrible, perfect sense. Jake wasn't just the favorite child. He was the child my father had actually wanted, had fought to keep. I was the price he paid for his marriage, a constant reminder of his greatest shame. Then Aunt Willow showed me something that ignited the flame of justice. The deed to my parents' lakefront estate, the sprawling property where I'd just been humiliated. For tax purposes, my parents had legally put their $800,000 mansion in my name years ago, but a secret addendum stipulated that after their deaths, the property would automatically transfer to Jake alone. They're using you as a tax shelter, Aunt Willow said, her voice gentle but firm. While ensuring Jake gets everything in the end, they've done this with several properties to avoid estate taxes. A lifetime of being used, minimized, and discarded crystallized into perfect clarity. With the mansion legally in my name, I realized I possessed real power for the first time in my life. I could sell it, immediately, and there was nothing they could legally do to stop me. They've used you your entire life, Skylar, Aunt Willow said, taking my hand. Maybe it's time you used the only leverage they've accidentally given you. What followed wasn't merely revenge, it was reclaiming my power and reconstructing my life on my terms. I contacted Jessica Winters, a real estate agent specializing in luxury lakefront properties, the very next morning. The market was red hot, and the estate sold within 5 days. $875,000 cash offer, no contingencies, 30-day close. Since the deed was legally in my name, a fact my parents had exploited for their tax advantages, the transaction was completely above board. I signed the closing papers with steady hands and clear conscience, each signature breaking another invisible chain that had bound me to their toxic expectations. I invested the proceeds into expanding my marketing agency, creating a division specifically focused on Indigenous representation, helping Native-owned businesses tell their authentic stories in a marketplace that had marginalized them. I hired Cherokee designers, Lakota copywriters, Navajo digital strategists, and created a $50,000 annual scholarship for Indigenous women pursuing business degrees. The money that was meant to solely benefit Jake became a foundation for lifting an entire community. The transformation in my life was immediate and profound. My business doubled in size within 6 months. My confidence soared as I stepped fully into my power for the first time. Most importantly, I began living for myself rather than seeking approval I now understood would never come. My parents' reaction was nuclear, but I was finally immune to their manipulation. My father showed up at my downtown office, face contorted with rage, shouting about family betrayal and ingratitude. My receptionist called security, and he was escorted from the building while still yelling that I would regret this for the rest of my worthless life. My mother left tearful voicemails about how I had destroyed our family and broken her heart after all they'd done for me. My phone exploded with texts from Jake, alternating between rage and manipulation. How could you do this to us? Where are we supposed to live now? Followed by, I thought we were family. Don't you care about my children? They threatened legal action, though their attorney quickly advised against it when confronted with the legitimate deed in my name. They threatened to ruin my reputation, to tell everyone I was mentally unstable and had stolen from family. They rallied extended family members to call me, either pleading Jake's case or condemning my actions. For the first time, I didn't crumble under their psychological warfare. I blocked their numbers, hired an attorney of my own, and sent cease and desist letters when the harassment continued. I lost some family relationships in the process, but I recognized they weren't connections worth preserving. 6 months later, my life had transformed completely. My agency expanded into a modern office space in Chicago's West Loop with 30 employees. We won a National Industry Award for our campaign elevating Indigenous voices in corporate America. My client list included Fortune 500 companies seeking authentic diversity in their marketing. I started intensive therapy to process the lifetime of emotional abuse. My therapist identified what I'd experienced as extreme familial scapegoating and narcissistic family dynamics. The validation was profoundly healing, confirmation that I wasn't crazy, that the treatment I'd endured wasn't normal or deserved. I reconnected deeply with my Cherokee heritage, finding strength in cultural teachings about resilience and authentic community. I learned that true family is built on mutual respect and support, not obligation and control. I started attending ceremonies my parents had forbidden, reconnecting with the culture they had only acknowledged when it served their narrative. The day I stopped seeking my parents' approval was the day I truly began living. I purchased a new home twice as beautiful as my previous condo, with a dedicated room for my art studio, a passion I'd suppressed because my parents had always dismissed it as impractical. I began dating without the shadow of family judgment hanging over every relationship. When I first shared my story online, an unexpected phenomenon occurred. What I'd posted partly as therapy, partly as closure, sparked a movement I never anticipated. Thousands of comments flooded in from fellow forgotten children who thought they were alone in their experiences. People who had spent decades questioning their worth because of family dynamics beyond their control. People who recognized the patterns because they had lived them. Jennifer from Boston wrote, "I've been the family scapegoat for 40 years. Your video gave me courage to finally set boundaries with my toxic mother. I've been in therapy for years, but couldn't take that final step until now." Michael commented, "My brother got a car, college tuition, and a house down payment. I got student loans and criticism. I thought I was overreacting until I watched this." Nijoni, a Navajo woman, reached out about similar experiences of being caught between traditional values and toxic family dynamics. Our culture teaches us to honor family, but not at the expense of our spirits. You found the balance our ancestors would be proud of. The comments weren't all supportive. Some people accused me of being vengeful, of going too far, of disrespecting my parents. But even those critical comments sparked important conversations about family obligations, boundaries, and the difference between respect and subjugation. We created a support group, the Forgotten Children, that quickly grew to over 50,000 members sharing resources, validation, and healing strategies. Therapists specializing in family trauma offered free webinars. Attorneys provided information on financial abuse. Most importantly, people found community in shared experiences. Through this unexpected journey, I found my true family, not through blood, but through understanding. Aunt Willow became the maternal figure I had always needed, supportive and proud of my accomplishments. My close friends, my team at work, my community of fellow survivors, they became the family that actually functioned like families should. The Cherokee concept of gadugi, working together for the good of the community, became my guiding principle. I realized that the traditional values my grandmother had taught me weren't at odds with setting boundaries. In fact, those values demanded authentic relationships based on mutual respect, not blind obedience to toxic hierarchies. As I reflect on my journey from family scapegoat to reclaiming my power, I want to share the 3 warning signs of toxic family favoritism that I wish I'd recognized sooner. Warning sign number 1. Consistent inequality in how achievements are acknowledged. When your accomplishments are minimized while your siblings are celebrated extravagantly, that's not normal family dynamics. It's systematic emotional abuse designed to keep you in your assigned role. Warning sign. 2. Different rules and expectations that never equalize with age. When you're held to impossible standards while your siblings get endless second chances and justifications, that's not tough love. It's scapegoating meant to preserve the family mythology. Warning sign. 3. Your mistakes are catastrophized while similar actions from siblings are dismissed. When your smallest errors become evidence of your character flaws, while your siblings' massive failures are just a phase, or not their fault, you're in a toxic family system designed to maintain predetermined roles regardless of reality. If you recognize these patterns in your own family, I want you to know 3 critical truths. You're not crazy. It's not your fault. And most importantly, you deserve better than the role you've been assigned. Today, I'm no longer the forgotten child. I'm the woman who remembered her own worth. From family scapegoat to successful CEO, from seeking approval to creating my own legacy, from isolation to building a community of support for others walking the same path. Blood doesn't define family. Respect, support, and genuine love do. Sometimes the healthiest thing we can do is to create the family we need, rather than continuing to seek validation from the family we were born into. Comment below with 3 words describing how it felt to be the unfavored child. I'll feature the most powerful stories in my next video, and together we'll continue breaking the silence around family favoritism. Tag someone who needs to hear this message of hope. And if you're struggling with family favoritism, join our community through the link in the description. You don't have to walk this healing journey alone. Remember, your worth isn't determined by those who couldn't see it. Sometimes the greatest act of self-love is walking away from those who never appreciated you in the first place. This is Skylar Blackwood, and this is my story of reclaiming my power and my life.